Book summary: Making Great Relationships, Simple Practices for Solving Conflicts, Building Connection, and Fostering Love by Hanson. Enjoy the video. Please subscribing to my channel for more great content like this. You'll be notified when I upload new videos. Making Great Relationships is a practical guide to building nourishing, healthy, communicative relationships. It shares simple strategies designed to troubleshoot conflict and break unhealthy cycles, as well as best practices for deepening and strengthening positive relationships. A book on making great relationships would likely cover the following key areas. 1. Communication. Effective communication is often considered the foundation of any strong relationship. This would include active listening, expressing oneself clearly, and nonverbal communication. 2. Emotional intelligence. Understanding and managing one's own emotions, as well as recognizing and responding to others' emotions, is crucial in relationships. 3. Trust and honesty. Building and maintaining trust through honest communication and reliable behavior. 4. Conflict resolution. Healthy ways to address disagreements and solve problems together. 5. Empathy and understanding. The ability to see things from the other person's perspective and show compassion. 6. Boundaries. Setting and respecting personal boundaries in relationships. 7. Shared values and goals. The importance of aligning on core values and working towards common objectives. 8. Quality time. The significance of spending meaningful time together and fostering shared experiences. 9. Personal growth. Encouraging individual growth while growing together as a couple or as friends. 10. Forgiveness and letting go. Learning to forgive, move past conflicts, and not hold grudges. Here are 5 hypothetical case examples that might be used to illustrate these concepts. 1. Communication. A couple, Sarah and John, were having frequent misunderstandings. They learned to use I statements to express their feelings without blame, and to paraphrase each other's points to ensure understanding. This led to a significant reduction in arguments and increased feelings of being heard and understood. 2. Emotional intelligence. Mark, a manager, noticed his team seemed disengaged. By improving his emotional intelligence, he became better at recognizing his employees' emotional states and responding appropriately. This led to improved team morale and productivity. 3. Conflict resolution. Best friends Lisa and Amy had a falling out over a misunderstanding. Instead of avoiding the issue, they agreed to discuss it calmly, each explaining their perspective without interruption. By focusing on the problem rather than blaming each other, they were able to resolve their conflict and strengthen their friendship. 4. Boundaries. Tom always felt overwhelmed by his mother-in-law's frequent unannounced visits. With his wife's support, he had a respectful conversation with his mother-in-law about calling before visiting. This boundary allowed Tom to feel more comfortable in his own home while maintaining a positive relationship with his mother-in-law. 5. Shared goals. A married couple, Alex and Jamie, felt they were drifting apart due to busy careers. They decided to set shared goals, including saving for a dream vacation and taking up a new hobby together. Working towards these common objectives reignited their connection and gave them more to talk about and look forward to together. These examples illustrate how applying relationship-building principles can lead to improved communication, understanding, and overall satisfaction in various types of relationships. The book would likely emphasize that building great relationships is an ongoing process that requires consistent effort, patience, and willingness to learn and grow. It might also stress that while these principles can be applied universally, every relationship is unique and may require individualized approaches. Introduction. Simple strategies to build better relationships. Our relationships with others, partners, family, friends, colleagues, can be the source of life's greatest joy. They can also cause us grief, pain, and frustration. Many of us take our most satisfying relationships for granted. What's more, we tend to view challenging relationships, with an irritating coworker or a former friend, perhaps, as fixed problems. The truth is, there's a skill to creating and sustaining great relationships, just as there are simple techniques you can use to troubleshoot and strengthen poor relationships or those that have hit a rough patch. And when we consider the outsized impact that our relationships have on our sense of well-being, not to mention the rewards that we derive from deep, meaningful connections, well, learning the skills and techniques to build nourishing relationships starts to seem pretty important. In this summary, we'll explore how building a better relationship with yourself lays the foundation for better relationships with others, as well as proven methods for dealing with challenging relationships and effective communication techniques for resolving conflicts. Become your own best friend. You've probably heard the saying, "It takes two to tango." Essentially, no one person is responsible for the health of their relationship with another. So you might be surprised to learn that all the changes, habits, and practices for building better relationships you'll learn in this summary are focused squarely on one person, you. Here's why: you can't control the actions or behaviors of others. But changing the way you relate to the people in your life is entirely within your control. And it all starts with how you relate to yourself. In fact, this might be the most important relationship you'll ever have. Imagine a time when you were a really supportive friend to someone who was having a hard time. What did you do for them? Perhaps you encouraged them, gently rebutted their self-critical talk, reminded them how special they are, and spent quality time with them. Doing all this for your friend probably didn't even feel too difficult. It's second nature to support our good friends when they need us. Now, imagine lavishing that kind of care, respect, and supportive encouragement on yourself. Does that seem just as easy? Probably not. But befriending yourself can actually allow you to build better relationships with others, too. Ready to learn a few techniques that will help you be a better friend to yourself? Great, let's begin. The first technique is about respecting your own needs. Often, we're frustrated by our relationships because they're not adequately meeting our needs. But encouraging others to meet your needs will be much easier once you also consciously try and meet your needs yourself. So try this exercise. Sit down with a blank piece of paper and write 2 words at the top. I need. Now, finish the sentence. What relationship-based need springs immediately to mind? Maybe you need your partner to pay you more compliments. That's a valid need. Sit with that need for a minute. Does it go any deeper? How would having that need met make you feel? A compliment from your partner may give you a feeling of self-worth. More than the acknowledgement that your hair looks nice, this feeling of self-worth is what you're really after. Once you've identified this deep-down need, ask yourself if you could meet it without relying on other people. Perhaps at the end of every day you could reflect on what you did well, and take a moment to appreciate your own capabilities and talents. When your needs are met, your cup is filled. It's powerful to realize that you can fill your cup yourself. Here's another way to start becoming a resource to yourself: cultivate a calm centeredness. Even our best relationships can get rocky when we're experiencing stress. Maybe you've snapped at a friend after a poor night's sleep or found yourself picking fights with your partner when a work deadline is looming. Feeling calm instead of stressed won't magically solve any problems in your relationships. But it will help you put them in perspective and deal with them reasonably. If you're feeling stressed, here's a quick fix: take a deep breath. Really. Breathe in for as long as you can. Then, as you breathe out, match the length of your exhale to the length of your inhale. Slowing your breathing actually activates your parasympathetic nervous system, a network of nerves that promotes feelings of ease and relaxation. Sometimes a deep breath is all you need to take you from boiling point to cool, calm, and collected. When relationship flashpoints are triggered, your parent is overly critical, or your partner is giving you the silent treatment yet again, practice breathing slowly, in and out, before you take any further steps. Finally, let's talk about forgiveness. Think about your friends. They're all pretty great people, right? You wouldn't be friends with them if they weren't. But none of them are perfect. And when they make mistakes, you forgive them. So, guess what? Being a friend to yourself means learning to do something incredibly difficult: forgiving yourself when you inevitably make mistakes. How are you going to do this? You're going to train yourself to be self-forgiving. Now, this exercise might be uncomfortable at first. Think about a time when you were in the wrong. Start small: an unkind remark to a friend, perhaps. Now, relive that incident. Face up to the facts of what happened, and be especially attentive to those facts that make you feel the most uncomfortable. It's time to own up to your wrongdoing. On a piece of paper, finish this sentence. I am responsible for. Next, draw some parameters around your feelings of shame. Finish this sentence. I am not responsible for. Things you're not responsible for might include ways in which others misinterpreted or overreacted to your actions. These things are outside your control. wrap up the exercise by acknowledging the ways in which you have made amends for your mistake, and reflect on how it helped you learn and grow. Repeat these steps whenever you can find the time, and you'll soon be extending the same compassion and forgiveness to yourself as you would so easily extend to others. Open yourself up to others through empathy and kindness. In the previous section, we discussed the importance of self-love. Now, let's think about how we can also turn love outward, toward those around us. As humans, we've been gifted with an incredible power, empathy, which allows us to perceive glimpses of other people's inner lives and emotional states. Empathy also happens to be the foundation of great relationships. Where it's lacking, misunderstandings and miscommunications inevitably arise. Train your empathy muscle by applying a respectful curiosity to the people around you. Notice what they're saying and how they're acting, and, from here, try to understand what they might be feeling. What do you think is causing them to feel this way? If you find other people difficult to read, focus on their eyes. Our eyes, and the many micro-movements we make around them, tend to be our most expressive feature. At the same time as you're building your capacity for empathy, explore how you can make kindness your default mode. Kindness, as a general rule, begets kindness. If you approach others with warmth and consideration, they are likely to respond to you with the same. Make a list of ways to be kind that feel authentic to you. Small and simple things are best, like smiling at a neighbor or emailing an old friend to say hello. Include people you might not normally be kind to on your list, the person you speak to when you call a customer helpline, for example. At first, these very deliberate acts of kindness might feel superficial. But you'll soon move from doing kind things regularly to simply being kind, and, in turn, inviting kindness from others. It's hard, of course, to be kind to everyone. But, as much as you are able, try not to put anyone out of your heart. We all have people in our lives who are, let's say, challenging. A coworker who drives you up the wall, an aunt that always gets drunk and aggressive at family get-togethers. How can you extend kindness to these people? First, remember that kindness is not approval. You can be kind to someone without condoning their actions. Second, set boundaries to protect yourself. Make it clear to your aunt that you won't talk with her when she is clearly drunk. Finally, find a trusted friend you can vent to, so you can release your negative feelings about this person. Remember, being kind and approaching those around you from a place of empathy and love doesn't mean you should act like a doormat. In the next section, we'll talk through some techniques for asserting yourself and your needs. Don't avoid conflict, instead, navigate it well. Even the healthiest relationships are marked by conflict and confrontation. In fact, if they weren't, they wouldn't be very healthy at all. But conflict can still be unpleasant. If you've ever felt flustered and anxious when a fight flares up, or if you find yourself exploding with rage whenever you're challenged, you need to develop strategies to calmly and confidently deal with conflict. Here are a few to start with. Find your footing, quite literally. In a fight, it can be hard to stay mentally grounded. Instead, pay attention to how you're physically grounded. Force yourself to focus on the feeling of your feet on the floor. Take deep breaths, and tune into the physical sensations you're experiencing. Try and find the calm-centeredness we discussed earlier. Next, try to find an even keel mentally. Return to the facts of the fight. Clarify what has been done, what has been said, and what the intent was behind those actions and words. You and your partner may not be seeing eye to eye, but if it's safe to do so, establishing some key facts can at least get you on the same page. Finally, make a plan for dealing with the issues that arise in the conflict. It could be something concrete, like creating a chore roster for you and your roommates. It could be something more holistic, like committing to practicing meditation and breathing with the objective of being less frustrated by inconsequential irritations. Remember that your plan doesn't have to include your partner in this conflict. Sometimes, they may be unwilling to work together with you, and it may simply be more productive for you to take your next steps alone. Here's another strategy: use anger as a tool, because that's precisely what it is. Our anger has something to tell us. The only problem is, when we're experiencing deep anger, we're not well placed to listen to its message. So here are some questions to ask yourself. What does my anger feel like in my body? Pay attention to the physical sensations that accompany anger, like clenched teeth or tight muscles, and learn to recognize them before anger fully takes over. What is my anger trying to tell me? For example, if you're snapping at others because you're overworked, your anger might be telling you to start turning down work projects. What is my anger trying to hide? Often, we lean into anger because we don't want to face the other, more vulnerable feelings of hurt, jealousy, or regret underpinning it, but if we can't work through these underlying feelings, our anger will never fully resolve. Will I be able to work through these questions when I'm in the grip of anger? Probably not, at least not immediately. So, try and work through them after an episode of rage, and gradually bring more mindfulness into the way you experience anger. Going forward, make a commitment not to act from anger. You don't have to stop feeling angry. But be purposeful in how you direct this useful emotion. For example, instead of reacting in the moment you feel anger, wait for a more appropriate time to talk through the issue firmly and clearly. Take a break when you feel a conversation getting heated. Speaking and acting out of anger takes the focus away from what you're expressing and transfers it onto how you're expressing it. When you take anger out of the equation, you can communicate clearly and focus on finding resolutions that work. Use your words. Words matter. And fine-tuning the way you speak to others can bring radically positive results. So, in this last section, we'll assemble a toolkit of easy-to-use verbal strategies that will encourage better communication across your relationships. First off, ask questions. They signal a genuine interest in others' experiences and feelings. Posing playful or personal questions, like "What was your first kiss like?" can deepen intimacy in friendships and romantic relationships. In a conflict, asking questions can take some of the heat out of intense exchanges. Questions like "What would it look like if you got what you wanted here?" and "Are there other things you want that haven't been addressed?" can help move arguments toward productive resolutions. Next, don't rain on anyone's parade. Aim to meet the ideas and interests of your spouse, friend, or colleague with general support, share practical concerns only when they're relevant, and avoid a negative or dismissive tone entirely. Relationships work best when we feel our partners are co-enthusiasts who are open to the same possibilities we are. If someone else has a valid critique of your behavior, own it, but don't dwell on it. Admit you're failing, explore how your partner might support you to avoid that failing in the future, and then move on, without tit-for-tat recriminations. Here's an example: "It was rude and disrespectful of me to look at my phone while we were talking." Going forward, maybe we can save relationship discussions for the evenings when I'll be less distracted by work. Now, what do you think about ordering pizza for dinner? Talk about talking. Take time to check in with the people who are important to you about how you're doing communication-wise. When communication gets rocky, focus on the future, not the past. Say things like, "Going forward, I'd like you to stop making comments about my body." Be sure to also address any needs or preferences you have. For example, you could say, "I know people in your family talk over each other, but I feel flustered and uncomfortable when I'm constantly interrupted." Tell people what you want. No matter how close your relationships are, other people aren't mind readers. If you need something from them that they aren't providing, tell them. But be specific. Instead of "I want you to do your fair share," try saying, "It would help me if you did the laundry without me having to ask." Instead of "I want you to be more affectionate," say something like, "I'd like it if we held hands while we're watching television." Finally, consolidate gains. When you're communicating clearly and openly with others, you will resolve issues and find ways to move forward. Celebrate each small win, and don't be tempted to move from one conflict to the next. Building great relationships takes time and work. You don't want to destabilize your progress by focusing on everything that remains to be done. Instead, be inspired by all that you've achieved so far, and get energized by the achievements to come. Summary: your relationships can be your greatest source of joy and frustration. It's natural that you want to change them for the better. But trying to change others can be an impossible task. Instead, focus on your own style of relating to others. This will not only improve your mental and emotional well-being, it will encourage those around you to do the same.